Welcome to our deep dive today.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
You've given us quite a challenge.
Yeah.
Excerpts from A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's 1972 edition of the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay.
Bhagavad Gita, as it is.
Right.
We're going to explore what makes this edition so unique and grapple with some of the core ideas within your chosen verses.
It's a fascinating choice. Prabhupada's commentary is known for its strong emphasis on Krishna's role, and it often sparks debate.
It definitely seems like he's coming from a very specific viewpoint.
Oh, yeah.
To quickly set the scene for our listener,
Okay.
the Bhagavad Gita is a 700-verse dialogue nestled within the epic Mahabharata.
Right.
Imagine a battlefield, two armies ready to clash. Prince Arjuna, on the brink of war, is having a full-blown existential crisis.
Oh, wow.
And his charioteer, Lord Krishna,
Right.
who also happens to be God, steps in to offer guidance.
It's more than just a pep talk, though.
Yeah.
The Bhagavad Gita delves into profound questions about duty, self-realization, and the very nature of reality.
Right, and you've given us excerpts from various chapters
Yeah.
which seem to touch upon a whole range of philosophical ideas.
Yeah. The best place to start is with Prabhupada's introduction.
Okay.
He makes it very clear that he wants to present the Gita without adulteration,
Okay.
purely focused on Krishna's message.
Mhm.
He even calls out other commentaries,
Right.
particularly the Mayavadibhaya, for distorting Krishna's teachings.
He doesn't mince words, does he?
Not really, no.
He states that before his edition, most English translations were more about personal ambition
Right.
than a faithful representation of Krishna's words.
Hmm.
He even quotes,
Oh, wow.
"Before my presentation of Bhagavad Gita as it is, almost all the English editions of Bhagavad Gita were introduced to fulfill someone's personal ambition."
Okay.
That's a bold claim.
Yeah.
It's as if he's saying, forget those other translations, mine is the definitive edition.
It certainly highlights the idea that every translation of a sacred text is filtered through the lens of the translator.
That's interesting.
How should we approach such differing interpretations?
Right.
Is there one correct understanding, or is the Gita open to multiple perspectives?
That is a deep question.
Yeah.
Okay, so keeping Prabhupada's unique perspective in mind, let's dive into the actual verses.
Okay.
One excerpt focuses on the jiva and yivara,
Yeah.
the individual soul and God.
Yes. And Prabhupada explains a key difference between them.
Okay.
Both are conscious, but the jiva's consciousness is limited to its own body, almost like a light bulb illuminating a single room.
Right.
In contrast, the Lord's consciousness encompasses all beings.
Okay.
Think of the sun radiating its light across the entire world.
Wow, that light bulb and sun analogy really clicked for me.
Oh, yeah.
It makes the difference in consciousness so much clearer.
That's a good one.
And this ties into the concept of Paramatma, right? The idea that the Supreme Lord resides in everyone's heart, like an inner guide.
Exactly. Prabhupada emphasizes that because the Supreme Lord is within each jiva, he is intimately aware of every thought and action.
Wow.
It raises the question, what does it mean to have God as a constant witness to our lives?
Right.
Does it change how we view our choices, our actions, knowing we're never truly alone?
If God's always watching,
Yeah.
does that mean we have less free will? Does it take away personal responsibility or does it enhance it?
That's a good question.
So many questions.
Right.
And speaking of action, another excerpt we have dives into the concept of karma.
Okay.
Prabhupada seems to be saying karma isn't necessarily eternal or set in stone.
Yes. He explains that actions are influenced by the three modes of nature, or gunas.
Okay.
When a person is in the mode of goodness or sattva, their actions have the power to change their karma.
Oh,
It's like a course correction.
okay.
We're not just bound by our past actions. There's room for transformation and growth.
So our actions today can reshape our future karma.
Yeah.
That's incredibly empowering.
Right. It's not about dwelling on past mistakes, but about making conscious choices now that align with our true nature, with goodness.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how this concept is woven into the backdrop of a battlefield.
It wasn't just a philosophical debate. It was a life or death situation. Right. That excerpt you mentioned earlier about Duryodhana going to his teacher, Dronacharya, reveals a lot about the political maneuvering and strategy happening behind the scenes.
And even though Duryodhana tried to play it cool and diplomatic,
Right.
you get a sense of his fear when he sees the Pandava army.
Oh, wow.
Remember what Sanjaya tells Dhritarashtra?
Okay.
Duryodhana's diplomacy could not disguise the fear he felt.
Wow. So even with all his power and ambition, he's still human underneath it all, grappling with real fear and doubt.
Right.
This makes the whole story so much more relatable. This interplay of human emotion and spiritual dilemmas against a backdrop of war.
And this brings us to the theme of dharma duty. Duryodhana's fear, his actions, force us to ask what constitutes righteousness in a situation where there's so much conflict, so much at stake. What is the right course of action when faced with such a difficult choice? This is the heart of Arjuna's struggle.
Okay, so how does Prabhupada connect this idea of dharma and right action back to the idea of God residing within us?
He suggests that the Lord's presence within us acts as a subtle guide, influencing our actions and nudging us towards choices that align with our true dharma.
So it's like having an internal compass always pointing us towards our highest good, even if we don't always listen.
Yeah.
But what if that compass is giving us conflicting signals, like in Arjuna's case, where duty and compassion seem to pull him in different directions?
That's where the real challenge lies, discerning the true path amidst the complexities of life. It's not always easy, and even with divine guidance, we have to grapple with those tough choices.
Yeah, I can see why Arjuna was having a meltdown.
Yeah.
This next excerpt, where Krishna and Arjuna blow their conch shells before the battle, really struck me. The way Prabhupada describes the sound as transcendental, it almost feels like a moment of divine intervention, a call to action.
It's definitely a powerful symbol. Those conch shells, the sound echoing across the battlefield, it signifies a divine blessing on those fighting for dharma, a promise of victory.
So even amidst all this chaos and uncertainty, there's a sense of divine order unfolding.
Exactly. The Gita seems to suggest that even when things look bleak, there's a higher purpose at play. But as we'll see, even with divine assurance, human hearts can still be filled with doubt and despair.
Which brings us to the next excerpt. The part where Arjuna completely breaks down.
Oh, wow.
He says, I can find no means to drive away this grief which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to destroy it, even if I win an unrivaled kingdom on the earth with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven. He's basically saying, what's the point of victory if everyone I love is dead?
It's a raw and powerful moment. Here we have Arjuna, this great warrior, overwhelmed by the potential cost of victory. It's a stark reminder that even the strongest among us can be brought to our knees by grief and despair. And this, I think, is where Prabhupada really emphasizes the importance of Krishna's role as a spiritual master.
Because if someone like Arjuna, a prince, a warrior, someone who seemingly has it all, can't handle this existential crisis alone, what hope is there for the rest of us?
Precisely. Prabhupada seems to be suggesting that intellect and worldly accomplishments aren't enough to navigate these profound questions. We need guidance and a perspective that goes beyond the material realm.
So this is where the Gita transitions from a war epic into a spiritual guidebook.
You could say that.
From the battlefield to the battlefield within.
It's about the search for truth. For understanding the self beyond the limitations of the body and the material world. Which brings us to that fascinating excerpt where Prabhupada describes the soul as atomic in size and incredibly difficult to comprehend. He even compares understanding the self to trying to grasp the wind, elusive and constantly shifting.
So if the self is so hard to understand, how are we supposed to even begin this journey of self-realization?
It does feel like a bit of a paradox, this idea that something so essential to who we are is also so elusive.
The Gita acknowledges that the journey to self-realization is not a walk in the park. It demands dedication, discipline, and a willingness to challenge our assumptions about who we think we are. Okay, so if it's that tricky, what are some of the tools the Gita offers to help us on this path?
One key concept is the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, which represent the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, respectively.
You mentioned the gunas earlier, but to be honest, I'm still not 100% clear on how they work in practice.
Think of them as forces or qualities that color our perception actions and even our state of mind. Prabhupada gives some pretty clear examples. Actions done in goodness or sattva lead to purity and inner peace. Actions fueled by passion, rajas, often end up causing stress and dissatisfaction, and actions born out of ignorance. Tamas, well, they keep us stuck in darkness, leading to confusion and suffering.
So if I'm feeling stressed and overwhelmed, is rajas at play?
It could very well be. Rajas is all about that constant striving, that need to achieve and acquire. It can be a powerful force for action, but it can also lead to burnout if we're not careful.
And what about when I'm feeling lazy and unmotivated? Is that tamas?
That's a classic sign of tamas. It's like a heavy blanket of inertia that smothers our energy and enthusiasm. It can be hard to break free from, but the Gita offers tools to help us shift towards those more sattvic qualities.
That makes sense. So is the goal to completely transcend the gunas, to be free from their influence entirely?
That's the ultimate aim, yes. But it's a gradual process, not a light switch we can just flip on and off. It's more like a journey of purification, of refining our actions and intentions to align with goodness.
Is this where the path of bhakti yoga comes in?
Exactly. Bhakti yoga, the path of devotion, offers a powerful way to purify our hearts and cultivate sattva. Prabhupada describes 3 classes of devotees, each with varying levels of understanding and commitment.
It sounds like there's room for everyone within bhakti yoga.
Absolutely. The first class of devotees are those who have deep scriptural knowledge and unwavering faith. They've really done their homework and dedicated their lives to serving Krishna.
They're the scholars, the experts. Then you have the second class, who maybe don't have as much big knowledge, but their hearts are filled with devotion. They connect with Krishna on a more intuitive level.
It's that heart connection that truly matters. And finally, you have the third class who are drawn to bhakti through their connection with other devotees, or through a simple, sincere desire to connect with the divine. They may be just starting their journey, but their sincerity is what matters most.
It's inspiring how inclusive bhakti yoga seems to be. But what about those who aren't drawn to bhakti, or even the idea of God? Where do they fit into this picture?
That's a great question. The next excerpt gives us some insight into how the Gita addresses those who might be skeptical or even resistant to these teachings.
You're talking about the part where Arjuna says some people find the soul amazing, yet struggle to really grasp it.
Yes. Prabhupada points out that for those who are completely engrossed in worldly pursuits, the concept of a soul can seem irrelevant, like something out of a fairy tale. Their focus is on the tangible world, on satisfying their desires and achieving success. The idea of a soul just doesn't compute.
It's like trying to explain quantum physics to a toddler. Their minds just aren't ready for it.
A perfect analogy. It highlights the challenge of communicating these profound truths. It's not just about conveying information, it's about awakening a different way of seeing the world.
So how does the Gita bridge that gap? How does it reach those who might be rolling their eyes or tuning out?
Well, for one thing, it uses metaphors and stories that are universally relatable. Even if someone isn't interested in Hindu mythology, they can still connect with the story of Arjuna, this warrior wrestling with a moral dilemma, a battle raging both within and around him. We all experience inner conflict, doubt, and the need to make tough choices.
Okay, so it's speaking to the human condition, to experiences we all share regardless of our beliefs.
Exactly. And the Gita also doesn't shy away from acknowledging the darker aspects of life. It recognizes the pain, the suffering that's inherent to the human experience.
It's not just about preaching bliss and positivity.
Not at all. It's about acknowledging the full spectrum of human emotions and experiences while offering a path towards transcending the limitations of the material world.
It sounds like it's offering a path to true freedom, to a state of inner peace that isn't dependent on external circumstances.
Precisely. And that brings us to another key, teaching the importance of a spiritual master.
Prabhupada seems to suggest that even someone as knowledgeable and accomplished as Arjuna needed a guide on this path.
He makes the point that intellect alone isn't enough. We need a teacher who embodies the wisdom of the teachings, someone who can walk us through the inevitable challenges and setbacks.
It's like having a seasoned mountain guide when you're climbing Mount Everest. They know the terrain, the potential dangers, and they can help you navigate those treacherous paths.
What a great analogy. The Gita portrays Krishna as that ultimate guide, the embodiment of wisdom and compassion, offering Arjuna not just information, but practical guidance and emotional support.
It makes these teachings feel so much more accessible, so much more human.
Yes, and the next excerpt where Arjuna breaks down, admitting he has no idea how to alleviate his grief, really underscores this need for spiritual guidance. It's a moment of raw vulnerability, a recognition that his own intellect can't solve this existential crisis.
It's so humanizing to see this warrior who's supposed to be strong and fearless reduced to tears. It reminds us that we all have moments of weakness, no matter how much we try to project strength and confidence.
And those are the moments when having a guide, a mentor, can make all the difference. Someone who can see beyond our surface-level struggles and offer a perspective grounded in something deeper and more enduring.
It's like having a therapist who helps you unpack your emotional baggage and see things more clearly.
That's a good way to think about it. But Krishna's role goes beyond therapy. He's not just offering coping mechanisms, he's offering a path to liberation, a way to move beyond suffering altogether.
So it's about addressing the root cause of our suffering, not just the symptoms.
Exactly. And this is where we circle back to one of the most profound teachings in the Gita, the three gunas.
I'm ready for round two. How do these gunas fit into this idea of spiritual master and the path to liberation?
Well, remember, sattva goodness, rajas passion, and tamas ignorance are constantly influencing our thoughts, actions, and perceptions, and our actions in turn either reinforce those gunas or help us shift towards a more balanced state. A spiritual master helps us understand this dynamic and guides us towards actions that cultivate more sattva, more goodness.
So it's like being mindful of the ingredients we're putting into our bodies, but instead of food, we're being mindful of the qualities we're cultivating in our minds and hearts.
I love that analogy. It's about making conscious choices that nourish our souls and support our spiritual growth.
That feels very empowering. So what does cultivating sattva look like in real life? What are some practical steps we can take?
Well, the Gita offers a whole toolbox of practices. Meditation, selfless service, studying scriptures, connecting with nature. All these practices help to quiet the mind, purify the heart, and bring us into closer alignment with our true nature.
It sounds like it's about living consciously, intentionally, aligning our actions with our deepest values and aspirations.
It's a beautiful way to put it. And the path of bhakti yoga, with its emphasis on devotion and love for God, can be especially powerful in cultivating sattva.
Because when hearts are filled with love and devotion, there's less room for those ego-driven desires that fuel rajas and tamas.
Exactly. It's like shifting our inner compass towards something bigger than ourselves, something more fulfilling than the fleeting pleasures of the material world.
This is fascinating. It's amazing how all these seemingly separate ideas, the battlefield setting the gunas, the need for a spiritual master, the path of bhakti yoga, all weave together to create this intricate tapestry of wisdom.
It's remarkable how the Gita manages to integrate philosophy, psychology, and spirituality into a practical guide for living a meaningful life.
And it's incredible how relevant these ancient teachings feel today. We might not be facing a literal battlefield, but we all encounter those inner conflicts, those moments of doubt and despair.
Absolutely. The Gita offers timeless wisdom for navigating those challenges. It reminds us that even amidst chaos and uncertainty, there's a path towards peace, purpose, and liberation.
Okay, we've covered so much ground already. Prabhupada's unique perspective, the nature of the soul, karma, dharma, the gunas, the need for a spiritual master, bhakti yoga. My mind is officially blown. What other gems do these excerpts hold?
Let's delve into the challenges and rewards of self-realization. We touched upon it earlier.
Okay.
But one excerpt really stood out to me, where it mentions how some find the soul amazing,
right,
while others struggle to even believe it exists.
It's that paradox again, this idea that something so central to our being can be so elusive, like trying to grasp smoke.
Exactly. The Gita doesn't sugarcoat it. This journey is not for the faint of heart. It requires dedication, a willingness to look inward and confront those limiting beliefs we often hold about ourselves. Prabhupada uses this analogy of someone trying to learn a complex subject without any guidance. They might hear about it, maybe even feel a sense of awe, but true understanding remains out of reach.
So we need the right tools and, just as importantly, the right guidance to truly grasp these profound concepts.
I couldn't agree more. A true teacher can illuminate the path, helping us to see beyond the illusions and distractions that cloud our understanding.
It's like having a skilled guide deciphering an ancient scroll, revealing its hidden wisdom and meaning.
Brilliant analogy. And just as a skilled guide needs both knowledge of the language and an understanding of the historical context, a spiritual master possesses both the wisdom of the teachings and the insight to apply them to our individual lives.
This is not just about downloading information, it's about integrating it into our lives, finding that personalized application.
That's the key. The Gita emphasizes that there's no one-size-fits-all path to liberation. What works for one person might not resonate with another.
Right.
A true spiritual master guides us towards the practices and teachings that align with our unique needs and aspirations.
Okay, so it's about finding the right key to unlock our own inner potential.
That's a beautiful way to put it. There's this excerpt where Krishna explains that before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is a yogi and is happy in this world.
Wow.
This speaks volumes about the power of self-mastery.
It sounds like true happiness doesn't come from chasing fleeting pleasures, but from learning to master our desires and impulses.
Precisely. The Gita isn't advocating for denying our desires, but rather for understanding their nature, recognizing that they're often fleeting and ultimately can't bring lasting fulfillment.
Okay.
It's about developing the wisdom to choose which desires to act upon and which ones to simply let go of.
So it's about becoming the CEO of our desires, not letting them run the show.
I love that. It's about taking back the reins and aligning our choices with our highest aspirations.
This is such a powerful concept, especially in a world obsessed with instant gratification. Everywhere we turn, we're bombarded with messages that happiness comes from external things, possessions, status, achievements.
The Gita offers a powerful counter-narrative to all that noise. It's about turning inward, cultivating a deep and abiding sense of peace that isn't dependent on those external factors.
So it's about finding that unshakable inner peace, the kind that can weather any storm.
Precisely. And that inner peace is the bedrock for true spiritual growth.
This next excerpt,
where Krishna describes the different modes of action, sattvic, rasic, and tamasic, beautifully illustrates how our inner state directly influences our outward actions.
Ah yes, the gunas again. Could you give us a quick recap on how they relate to our actions and spiritual progress?
Of course. Remember, sattva is about purity, clarity, and wisdom. Rajas is driven by passion, desire, and action. And tamas is associated with ignorance, inertia, and delusion. The Gita teaches that actions born from sattva lead us towards liberation, while actions fueled by rajas keep us bound to the cycle of karma, and actions stemming from tamas, well, they lead us further into darkness and suffering.
So our actions are like seeds, and the gunas determine what kind of fruit they bear.
What a beautiful analogy. The Gita invites us to become aware of the gunas at play in our lives, and to consciously choose actions that nourish our souls and move us towards greater freedom and fulfillment.
So it's about making choices that align with our desire for growth and liberation. It's about saying yes to those actions that lift us up, and saying no to those that keep us stuck.
Beautifully put. There's this passage where Krishna states that he who is without attachment, who does not rejoice when he obtains good, nor lament when he obtains evil, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. This speaks to the profound importance of equanimity on the spiritual path.
So it's about cultivating that state of inner balance where you're not constantly thrown off kilter by life's inevitable ups and downs.
Exactly. True wisdom lies in recognizing that pleasure and pain are both temporary visitors. By learning to detach from the outcomes of our actions, we find a deeper sense of peace that transcends the roller coaster of external events.
It's like watching the waves crashing on the shore. We can observe the constant motion without getting swept away by the current.
I love that image. The Gita invites us to cultivate that same sense of inner stillness amidst the ever-changing tides of life.
This is so insightful. It's remarkable how the Gita offers practical wisdom for navigating not just the big existential questions, but also the everyday challenges of living a meaningful life.
It truly is a timeless text offering guidance and inspiration to seekers from all walks of life.
Before we wrap up, there's one last excerpt I want to touch on, where Krishna describes those who lack faith in the path of devotional service as returning to the cycle of birth and death.
That's a potent reminder about the importance of nurturing our spiritual connection. Prabhupada clarifies that true faith isn't about blind belief, but rather about cultivating a deep understanding and conviction that guides our actions and shapes our lives.
So it's not about blindly following a set of rules, but about aligning our lives with a higher purpose, a deeper truth that resonates within our hearts.
Beautifully said. The Gita offers a multitude of paths to reach that truth: selfless service, meditation, devotion, and more.
Right.
But the key is to approach the path with sincerity, with a genuine longing to connect with the divine, however we understand it.
It's like setting off on a grand adventure. We need a clear destination in mind, a reliable map to guide us, and the unwavering determination to keep moving forward even when the path gets challenging.
What a perfect analogy. The Gita serves as both map and compass, guiding us toward our ultimate destination, liberation from suffering, a profound connection with our true nature, and the realization of our fullest potential.
This deep dive has been absolutely incredible. I feel like we've only just begun to explore the vast ocean of wisdom contained within these seemingly simple verses.
It's a journey of a lifetime. With each reading, new layers of meaning are revealed, offering deeper insights and fresh perspectives.
I'm so grateful for your insights and for the opportunity to share this exploration with our listener.
The pleasure has been all mine. And to our listener,
yes,
we encourage you to continue your own exploration of the Bhagavad Gita. It's a gift that keeps on giving.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this thought-provoking idea from the Gita. The battlefield isn't just out there in the world, it's also within each of us. Every choice we make, every thought we entertain either moves us closer to liberation or keeps us entangled in suffering. Which path will you choose? That's for you to contemplate as you continue your deep dive into the heart of the